The Republican presidential field got smaller, but will it make a difference? Washington, TND. The Republican presidential nomination contest had its most high-profile withdrawal, with former Vice President Mike Pence dropping out after failing to secure enough momentum in support and fundraising. Dollars to continue to make a long-shot challenge in a race being dominated by his former boss and running mate. It was a surprising shake-up, the race that has been in essentially the same place for months. Former President Donald Trump holding a commanding lead while the field jostles, hoping to make it to second place despite a series of criminal indictments and continually low approval ratings carrying over from his time in the Oval Office. Pence's campaign came to an end less than 5 months after it started and routinely struggled to bring in high fundraising totals or stick out from a crowded pack of challengers. His decision to drop out of the race came less than 90 days before the Iowa caucuses, which he hoped to use as a springboard to vault up voters' priority list. It also comes just over a week before the third Republican debate, which have gotten increasingly more difficult for candidates to get on the stage. It's become clear to me that this is not my time, Pence said in a speech before Jewish Republican donors in Las Vegas, a surprising moment that was met with audible gasps from the crowd. Despite his stature as a former vice president, his removal from the race doesn't figure to shake up the standing of the race much, with just a few percentage points worth of support in most opinion surveys. I don't think it changes much in the basic dynamics of the race because he wasn't polling very highly anyway, so you don't have a lot of votes to redistribute here, said Chris Devine, an associate professor of political science at the University of Dayton. Pence's failure to make it to Iowa is yet another reminder for the field of presidential hopefuls of Trump's stature among the GOP's voters and dominance in the nominating contest. A Des Moines Register, NBC News, Mediacom poll released Monday found Trump has the support of 43% of voters likely to participate in the caucuses. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor and United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley are the only two other candidates in double digits, and Pence only had 2%. While the support among the field of challengers has had some changes throughout the campaign, including a recent surge for Haley, the findings are like most other public opinion surveys: Trump with a commanding lead and the rest of the field fighting for second. The poll also found Trump was the dominant second choice for voters who would prefer someone else to win the nomination, another example of his grip over the party's voters and the size of his base. Pence struggled throughout his campaign to build his base of support despite serving as the vice president during the Trump administration, whose policies are still popular with Republican voters. His standing in the administration, typically an asset for vice presidents who choose to run for the top job, created an awkward line for he and his campaign to navigate. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than Pence tried to criticize Trump at some points, mostly for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election that are now subject to indictments and legal battles with the federal government, while trying to take credit for the administration's accomplishments that are well received with the party's voters. His refusal to go along with pressure to refuse certifying the 2020 election results also presented a challenge with some of the voters he was trying to court, as some attendees at his events questioned him on why he betrayed the former president despite the assessment from the former vice president's legal counsel, along with most other constitutional scholars, that he did not have the legal authority to throw out the results. Trump is very popular within the party, so I'm not sure there's anything you could do strategically to change that dynamic, Devine said. The fatal flaw of Mike Pence's campaign, to the extent he could have done any better, was that he tried this too clever by half strategy of being the being for Donald Trump's administration, but being kind of slightly against Donald Trump as a human being, trying to praise his presidency, while not even going after him personally in a really aggressive way. Even when bowing out of the race, he encouraged the party's voters to elect a new leader without naming Trump directly, instead speaking about its ideology that has changed since Trump became the standard-bearer in 2016. I urge all my fellow Republicans here, give our country a Republican standard-bearer that will, as Lincoln said, appeal to the better angels of our nature, he said, and not only lead us to victory, but lead our nation with civility back to the time-honored principles that have always made America strong and prosperous and free.